Drink with James, episode 170, that is 170. I just assume you guys, obviously you know me, but as I make the logical transition just to being like a late night host, I feel like I need to introduce myself at the beginning of every episode as if I'm bringing in so many new viewers every time that I have to be like, I'm James Nord. But in reality, it's mostly like my mom and like 200 other people that are my diehards, and I love you guys. Thank you. But how do we feel about the eventual transition just into having a late show? I, funny enough, pitched this to MTV like a year and a half ago. I was like, I should do a show once a week on MTV, just like on their digital thing. I don't even know, is MTV even on cable anymore? I have no idea. I didn't ask for much. I just asked for a web show where I would essentially do Drink with James, but like with an interview like much bigger influencers. Like obviously, if I was on MTV, I would be able to pull in whatever talent we wanted to. Look, they never really wrote back to me. So look, their loss. But if there are any television executives out there watching this, one, I congratulate your niche taste in YouTube content. Two, drop me a line if you want me to do a late night kind of variety show around influencers. I got the hair for it. I could get a little bit of plastic surgery and have the face for it. I am ready to go. Just give me a call. Look, people, it is important to, ask for what you want. Put it out there, right? Last week I was shitting on The Secret. That's because The Secret is a total crock of shit. But here I am. I'm putting it out into the universe. Give me a late night show. I am ready to be famous. It has been 35 years, which I feel like is long enough to wait. Okay, question number one. Facebook is in the news again. What do I think about the $40 million fine Facebook got for inflating video views? First of all, it's a total fucking joke. For those of you who don't have the context, Facebook just got fined $40 million, which for them is like literally probably their cereal budget for their staff every year. So it's nothing. They got fined $40 million for inflating video views. Here is why that is such a sad, depressing story that I think isn't getting enough play, and that the fine is not nearly high enough for what happened. Facebook knowingly inflated the number of views their videos were getting. So they had it so that if you watched a video for 3 seconds, which is essentially just scrolling over it, it would count as a view. And that seems innocuous enough. The problem is that once they launched native video, the views that brands were getting, people were getting, were absolutely staggering. I saw this guy who is the head of video content for Vox talking about it, and he was saying they were consistently getting videos that were getting 100 million views. I don't really know what hugely viral videos on YouTube do, but 100 million views is staggering. And Vox, not known for incredibly viral video, was getting consistently being able to pull in over 100 million views. And so what happened was all of these companies shifted their strategy to Facebook video. I'm sure if you all follow digital marketing news, you heard this idea of a pivot to video. You know how all these new news organizations were pivoting to video? This was 100% driven by Facebook native video. Facebook was pushing people hard to invest in their platform. They were, co-branding videos with people. They were putting money behind this. They were actively courting brands. And for a lot of news organizations that were already on the brink of destruction, they invested huge amounts of money into teams, into studios, and pulled resources away from editorial, pulled resources away from their own website, and went 100% in on Facebook native video. when months later it turned out to all be a lie, and Facebook came out and said, oh, so sorry, yeah, we are completely inflating video views. Those videos that were getting 100 million, the guy from Vox was like, we were lucky if we could break 1 million now. And so these entire teams that they had built, all of a sudden, like that, it just wasn't a viable business. And it completely destroyed a lot of companies. I think it's a big reason MIC, that news organization, they recently shut down. A lot of companies have, gone out of business, declared bankruptcy, or had huge layoffs. And a big part of that story is the failed pivot to video. And a big part of the story of why people pivoted to video was because the numbers that were coming out of Facebook were so unbelievable that it felt like the silver bullet that was going to save them. And so they put all their eggs in that basket just to have it fucking destroyed. And Facebook kind of plays dumb a little, says, oh, it was a mistake, we didn't mean to. And when, we caught the bug, a few months in, we changed it. But I think it speaks to a darker and scarier side of the platform. And it's something that we've talked about with like IGTV. I know that like YouTubers have been frustrated with the views that they're getting on YouTube, and then they started posting to IGTV and they were seeing much higher views. And I talked to YouTubers and they're like, we're thinking about leaving YouTube and going to IGTV. And I was like, do not do that. That is a terrible, terrible idea, because I can almost guarantee the only reason that you're getting these high view counts on IGTV is because the way they count a view is substantially different than Facebook's. That turned out to be the case. IGTV, you had to do 5 or 10 seconds for a view. Facebook, you got to do 30 seconds. These things really, really matter. A lot of people don't make it past the 15-second mark on a video. They make it past the 5 or 10-second mark, and that is not a view. But influencers are seeing that, and they're chasing, you're so focused on chasing growth and chasing those numbers that you might follow that to a place that doesn't really make sense to you. I was just trying to look up what TikTok counts as a view. In my very quick search, I couldn't find it, but when you see these insane numbers coming out of a platform, it's important to make sure that we are judging it accordingly, and we're making sure that we have an even way to judge these platforms to see how effective they are, because you don't want to put your, no matter what, you need to diversify. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but you can't just blindly trust what these platforms are telling you, because they are there not to make the world a better place, not to make you money, not to make you feel warm and fuzzy. They're there to deliver value for their shareholders. Facebook is one of the best companies in the history of mankind to do that thing, to provide value to their shareholders. That is the one and only driving force of their business. If you need proof of that, look no further than the fact that they're allowing politicians to run ads with lies in them. Something you could never do on cable, you could never do in a newspaper. Facebook just says, fuck it, we don't care. Run an ad with a lie. I have yet to see a reasonable, cohesive, coherent reason why they do that, other than it's too hard to fact check this stuff, so fuck it. And we make a lot more money if we let the lies through. I think it is a huge problem. I think that Facebook has changed my life and many other people's. Essentially my whole business is based on it. But I sometimes worry about its impact on democracy, and y'all are not only complicit, but big drivers in this space. And I think that something we've been talking about over the last few weeks is just, what is your responsibility? What is your responsibility to kind of understand the impact that we're having on the world, and to potentially change our behavior to change that impact in some way. Question number 2 is a little less esoteric and heady. What should the influencer-agent relationship look like? One, I think people say agent when they're really either talking about agent or manager. That is two different things. An agent should be someone out there bringing you deals. I think that if you have an agent, at least year one, at least 20% of the deals you close should come from them, not you. I think that should move toward 50% potentially as your relationship with them progresses. An agent, you should be able to tell, in the next year, I want to work with Nike, I want to work with the Four Seasons, I want to work with Apple. And that person should go out and make that happen. If you're not ready for that, they should tell you what you need to do to get ready for that. An agent is out there as your agent. Like, if you just think about the word, they are like an extension of you out there trying to grow your business, trying to bring you more deals, bring you more attention, opportunities, etc. A manager, in my mind, is more taking inbound requests, trying to negotiate up for you, trying to get you a little bit of money, helping to manage your inbox, helping to manage your brand deals, etc., etc. Unfortunately, I think both manager and agent take the 20% out of your, out of what you make. I am shocked that influencers give 20% of their money away for someone to check their fucking email. Truly, I don't understand it. I understand being bad at it, but I don't understand giving 20% away with no cap. If you bring in a $200,000 deal, you're going to give them $40,000 to answer your email and negotiate that. Like, we are not negotiating major motion picture deals, right? With licensing and, action figures. These things they can be complex, but for most people, especially if you're under 1 million followers, they are not that complex. And I think that a lot of influencers are flushing a lot of money down the toilet because they don't want to answer their email and they feel icky negotiating. Now, an agent can be incredibly helpful when they're good. Something that I think is really important, whether it is an agent or a manager, that person works for you, not the other way around, and you need to train them how to operate inside of your universe, right? You should have standards for how do you answer an email? How quickly do you answer an email? What tone do you use? How do you turn people down? How do you relay bad news? How do you relay good news? What does your reporting look like? How do they speak about you? Do they bring you deals before they answer? Or do you want them to negotiate before they bring you, try and get the negotiation to a point of a number before they bring you the deal? These are all important things that should come not from your agent, but from you. You are giving your money away for them to work for you. You are their boss. I think that if I had an agent here, I'm happy to have this conversation in future episodes. They would say it's more of a partnership. I think that's kind of bullshit. I do think it is a partnership, but at the end of the day, as the influencer, you are the talent. And if they are making over 50%, if over 50% of the money is coming from you, from inbound brand deals, they work for you. And they need to operate in the way that you find effective, and you need to make sure they're not out there giving you a bad name. I've said this before, I will say it until I'm blue in the face. There are influencers that we love working with, that we can't work with because their agents are so incompetent. And it's a really sad thing when it happens, and I always wonder if influencers are auditing their agents, if they're looking at the emails they send, if they look at how long it takes. If your agent takes 36 hours to get back to a brand with big money that wants to pay you, I would fucking fire them instantly. I don't put up with that shit in here. If I hear of a client trying to get in touch with one of our employees, I lose my fucking mind. You can answer an email. It is your job. And influencers need to be auditing these relationships, because while there are many great agents out there, there are people like ruining their clients' reputation in the space. And I don't think enough people talk about it, and I don't think enough influencers think to check it. So get in there, like look at those emails, ask to see the chains. If you hear of anything, negative feedback about the agent, I would be like, hey, I want to look at every single email you've sent on my behalf in the last 2 months and audit that stuff. Like, I would get very, very serious about it. End of the day, what we want is this thing to be great and to be a great relationship, but it is a relationship. You have to train your employees. And again, while this isn't a traditional employer-employee relationship, you need to train them. How do you want them to sign off on the email? Is it cheers? Is it regards? Regards and cheers, or regards and XO, are two very different vibes. And I think as an influencer, you need to be setting those standards. The short answer to the question of what should an influencer-agent relationship look like, it should look how you want it to look. You are paying them. And again, it's different than a traditional model to agent relationship where people come to the agency and then the agency says, this is who I have, and then they book the model. In that relationship, the agency has more power than the talent, but people, if they're coming to you, you have the power and you should set the standards. Question number 3. What are some of the biggest pitfalls of travel or destination influencers? Look, we'll keep this one pretty short. The great thing about travel is everyone loves it. Everyone loves to look at places they haven't been that they want to go. Everyone wants to think about getting away. It's really inspirational. It's entertaining. It's fun to look at. It gets great engagement. The really difficult part is there's no money in it. That might change, but you have to understand the way that hotels and airlines operate. First of all, airlines make no money, essentially. The margins, to say that an airline's margins are razor thin is probably an understatement. I heard a fact once, a couple years ago, said that most airlines make 8 cents per ticket. That's what they make. Flying your ass from New York to San Francisco, they make 8 cents on that flight. And then you ask, oh my gosh, why don't I have better food? Or why are they treating me like cattle? The price of an airline ticket is so low. It's truly shocking that you can fly across the country for $300. They are, again, essentially making no money on that. So airlines don't have the massive advertising budgets that, well, let's look at fragrance, right? So if on a $200 ticket, an airline makes 8 cents, on a $200 bottle of perfume, that brand probably makes $180, $185. So who do you think has more money to advertise? The fragrance, right? This is why beauty companies vastly outspend fashion companies in this space, because the margins are shockingly good. So they have so much money to spend on advertising. Airlines don't, hotels don't. These things have become commoditized, and as they became commoditized, the biggest factor in driving bookings and sales is price, and they're all competing on price. And so they just can't play around with advertising and money in the same way. So it's going to be really hard as a travel influencer to make money because there's just not a lot of advertising dollars out there, and all the advertising dollars that do exist for travel are very, very focused on performance, on bookings, right? The Four Seasons overall might be spending money to try and build a brand, but the Four Seasons in Boston just wants you to book the hotel, right? Delta is doing things to try and make you think about it as a different airline, but what are they focused on next week is making sure that their planes are full. So there's just not the same brand-driven advertising spend that exists in other markets, because to do that, they'd probably have to double the price of the flight, and then we'd all complain about that. So it's probably not going to happen, and I think being a travel influencer, you may live a pretty cool life, but making the kind of money that a beauty influencer makes is, I would say, will never happen, ever. So too long, didn't listen. Biggest pitfall of being a travel influencer, you're probably never going to make a lot of money. Anyway, that is the show. Because I know you're very interested, am going to get a haircut. So goodbye.